And so what people that love Israel don't understand is, first of all, they call everyone an anti-Semite. They think they don't, but they literally can't name a single critic of Israel that they haven't called an anti-Semite, right? And so, and then in their fantasy minds, they're like, well, I suppose you could say that it was rainy in Israel and I won't call you an anti-Semite, but anything else, trope, right? It's like, and so number one, most of those people who are criticizing a government, like you'd criticize the Turkish government or the Canadian government, but now all of a sudden they're being accused of hating Jewish people and they're being viciously attacked. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to actually start saying, hey, wait a minute, why are these particular people attacking me super unfairly? It's going to increase anti-Semitism, and that's actually super obvious to anyone who isn't maniacally biased. Meanwhile, Piker appeared on Pod Save America podcast to discuss some of the recent turmoil surrounding him. He says that although he has issues with the Democratic Party, he'll...
What the fuck? He's doing like a straight... Is he just like a co-host now? What is happening?
Ultimately wants to work with them to take down the Republicans. Let's watch.
I want to fight against the growing fascist movement in this country. My frustration with the Democrats is their conciliatory attitude towards that and their lack of investment in this struggle. If you were serious about being an anti-fascist, if you were serious about combating these forces, you would take it more seriously.
Now, Hasan Piker, would you say he's your nephew, right?
Yeah.
You're related?
Yes. Yeah, okay. He's my nephew. Yep.
There's a lot of attention for him in these last 2 weeks. Every conversation has been about him on social media. I mostly agreed with Ezra's column. I think it's healthy for liberal discourse and probably Democrats overall that they've finally come around to the cancel culture's gone too far, deplatforming doesn't really work. Just because someone said something controversial doesn't mean we should get to decide that they no longer participate in discourse. The exact kind of thing they did to Joe Rogan, which pushed him to become more of a figure of the right, even though he has numerous differences with Donald Trump's project. That's all not going to happen anymore. That is, I don't know if that means you should always embrace him in every context, but since he's your relative, maybe you should start us off here.
So Ezra actually said two things, and I agree with both of what he said. So one is, as a Democrat and liberals, stop canceling everyone, which is the point you made. But he also was saying to people who support Israel, stop canceling everyone and calling everyone an anti-Semite. It's not
helping the cause.
Right. It's being counterproductive. And
I'm low-key starting to think some of these libs think you will go to the dark side and destroy them. It's so funny that they think that. I obviously would never do that, but I'm glad that they feel that way because it seems like the only way that they're responsive, it seems like the only way that you get liberals to be responsive is if you threaten them with inaction. Like, they only have one speed. They're like, oh my God, they're not unconditionally voting for us. What the fuck's going on? We have to literally do something about it.
Absolutely right about that. And so what people that love Israel don't understand is, first of all, they call everyone an anti-Semite. They think they don't, but they literally can't name a single critic of Israel that they haven't called an anti-Semite, right? And so... And then in their fantasy minds, they're like, well, I suppose you could say that it was rainy in Israel and I won't call you an anti-Semite, but anything else, trope, right? It's like, and so number one, most of those people who are criticizing a government, like you'd criticize the Turkish government or the Canadian government, but now all of a sudden they're being accused of hating Jewish people and they're being viciously attacked. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to actually start saying, hey, wait a minute, why are these particular people attacking me super unfairly? It's going to increase anti-Semitism, and that's actually super obvious to anyone who isn't maniacally biased.
I agree with that, and I've been very clear that I think some of the accusations of anti-Semitism against Hasan Piker...
Here's a but coming, but you can't possibly argue with these choice quotes, like... Everyone that always says this will immediately hit that with a but to be like, but don't you feel like these are anti-Semitic? And then you're asking a totally uninitiated third party that probably doesn't know the context to like defend the worst snippets. It's just like the same exact game that you're playing that Ezra Klein was disavowing in the fucking article, while you're simultaneously claiming you're anti-cancel culture and also that you agree with Ezra Klein. Okay? It's so funny. It's just like such a ridiculous thing to do. Here, let's see the butt.
Other people are unfair because I ask, well, how do you back that up? And then it's just disagreeing with their criticism of the state of Israel or its government. So I agree with that. However, I think there is a particular, again, to play devil's advocate, this is a debate show, there is a particularly harsh rhetoric and condemnation on the Israeli government, which is fine by me. I disagree with the Israeli government too. That is not given to any other government ever.
No.
And it's not, including by, Hassan Piker, who was
not true.
in China and said, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Actually,
No,
we
Robbie.
like them, and it's not, and it's okay.
No. That's just BS, victim ideology by the Israelis. Like, oh, we're the victims. No. You're the guys who just murdered over 70,000 people.
Thank you. Oh, he is not putting up with that shit at all. He's like, nope, we're not playing that game. That's Unk, baby. That's Chunky Weigert right there. That's Unky Chunky, dude. He just said, nah, not playing that game. Not
People
happening.
Destroyed all of Gaza. You're the people who just displaced 1 million people from southern Lebanon. You're not the victims. Stop pretending like you're the victims.
Not the
it's
victims.
deeply annoying to everyone and preposterously false. And so look, no, Robbie, no, Robbie, let me address what you're saying, because it goes to their victim mindset. Oh, they're only criticizing Israel. No, look, we can't stand what the North Koreans are doing to their own people.
Right.
We're named after the Uyghurs. We're not Uyghur Turks, but we're named after them. And so I can't stand the concentration camps that the Chinese have set up for Uyghur Turkic people in their country.
Right.
And we talk about it, and I've had representatives of the Uyghur government in exile. We talk about all those issues. But
it's
we
very
don't-
admirable. I applaud you for
but
that.
we don't fund the Chinese government. We don't fund the North Korean government. We fund the Israeli government. I didn't fund a genocide in Sudan or anywhere else, but unfortunately, money was taken out of my pocket to fund a genocide in Gaza and now in Lebanon, and now we're funding a war in Iran for no reason. So don't tell me that Israel's the special victim. No, Israel is the special beneficiary of endless funding and endless wars, and the entire country is sick of it.
Let me just
Go ahead.
get in here briefly, because broadly I agree with Cenk's point. And earlier in the show we were talking about media coverage of that conflict. One of the things that frustrates me a lot right now is the people who are brought on to most mainstream cable news shows to argue against Trump's position on Iran are often the Democratic-leaning architects of the absolute catastrophe.
By the way, this is the calmest I've ever seen Cenk on a panel, especially on a panel where Israel is being defended, even subtly or not so subtly. I feel like lately, every time I see him on a panel and someone says Israel, he loses his dang mind, which is understandable. I mean, the atrocities are unthinkable, that they're endless. The defense of said atrocities are often uncontested and very frustrating to experience over and over again. So I'm glad that he was able to, be a little bit cooler on this panel. This is the coolest I've ever seen him be.
That happened in Gaza. People like Jake Sullivan, people like Brett McGurk, all these people who were extremely supportive of what has been a bipartisan slaughter in Gaza. So that's obviously a problem. Then you have the idea, which I think Ezra Klein is right about, to say the constant charge of anti-Semitism does in fact hurt the cause, because it does end up saying, if you're criticizing Israel, you're criticizing Jewish people, which is not true, right? Separate from all of that, I have always said on this show and elsewhere that anti-Semitism of course exists, that it is of course as gross and horrendous as any other form of prejudice. But the reason for that sea change in American opinion isn't because anti-Semitism has miraculously bubbled up out of nowhere. It is because a very large number of people, regardless of where they stand on the conservative or liberal spectrum, find the behavior of the IDF, particularly in Gaza and now in Lebanon, abhorrent.
Well, and this is why I am, I'm putting up no resistance. I want to stop funding Israel's defense. I'm for canceling all foreign aid. I'm for canceling all foreign programs. I'm for shutting down our entire government. I'm a libertarian anarchist. So I agree with that.
What?
Completely.
I thought this guy was right-wing.
It's just that, and again, some of these people.
I guess you can be a right libertarian anarchist as well. Anarcho-capitalist.
There are critics of the Israel Project that do evince anti-Semitism, not the ones we've mentioned so far in the show today, but Candace Owens is, or at least she's deranged, I think, in the things that she says. I mean, she says her best friend dies, and she says, or implies heavily that Israel killed him. There's no evidence, not a shred of it. That makes people think you harbor,
I agree with that,
or insanity or something.
Yeah. So I don't know about that particular example, but I do agree with you generally, which is that, like, for example, when Candace jumps the shark and starts talking about Talmudic Jews.
Yeah.
No, now you've crossed over to anti-Semitism.
She's tweeted a picture of Jewish people in New York, say, "Is this what you really want, America?" Things like, she did not say that, do that exact thing, but something along those lines.
So look, and then Nick Fuentes, when he talks about Jewish people, is being anti-Semitic, right? So, like, but this is, like the Jesse Smollett situation where the false charges of racism do more damage to actual racism.
Yes.
But this is like a nuclear case of it. There's like, they're not saying it just about Fuentes or Candace Owens' particular comments. They're saying it about every critic of Israel. So it's like Jesse Smollett on steroids. Anti-Semite, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. Everybody's an anti-Semite until people get sick of the people making the anti-Semite charge. So Ezra's basically almost like a canary in a coal mine going, hey guys, we're running out of oxygen here, right? This is mental. We're just distancing every potential ally, everyone who might listen to us, everyone who's open-minded. We're calling everyone anti-Semites until we're making them anti-Semites. Get out of your, ironically, I agree with Ezra's positions more than I agree with Haas's positions. I go on Hasan's show and debate him for 4 hours straight, right? So I'm more...
Bro, it'd be your own ones, yo. It be your own ones. You got Unk attacking nephew, dude. Uncle on nephew violence. Like, oh, I agree with Ezra Klein more than I agree with my own blood, my own kin. How dare you? That's crazy. That's crazy. Defend me, Unk. I guess, hey, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes for Cenk's giving. Okay? I will remember this.
Or, I don't know, these terms don't mean anything anymore, but I'm more center left, and he's more, radical left, whatever you want to call it, right?
And I think that's healthy and good to do those debates.
And so you don't have to agree with everything Hasan says in order to talk to Hasan. That's a mental new standard invented by the Israelis to cancel everyone who criticizes Israel. Oh, I disagreed with you 1%. That's it. Never talk again. Never go on another show. Never allow his voice.
I don't think it's Israelis that invented that. I do think people... My attitude on this is actually a little bit different than everybody else's, I think, which is, I think this is just a cynical cancel culture standard that forces to our right always apply to their left. So if it's like right-wingers, they will often use this standard against liberals, right? Like center-right figures, center-left figures. They do this with like Gavin Newsom. They'll be like, oh, Gavin Newsom is racist towards black people. It's like, bro, you're literally a Republican. You're like a Republican mouthpiece. What the fuck do you mean Gavin Newsom is racist towards black people because you picked the clip out of context, right? But then liberals also do the exact same cynical bullshit to their left flank, right? It's just a very common universal practice of left punching, okay? Doesn't always have to be punching the left, mind you. Oftentimes, the right cynically uses this against not only people like myself, but also for people to their marginal left, right? People who are center-right figures, people who are center-left figures. Is it still a bannable offense to be from Naperville? Yes. Take a second off. Always. But yeah, the reality of the matter is, do defenders of Israel apply this standard all the time? Absolutely. Nonstop. It's unbearable. But I do think it's a universal thing that most people in American politics weaponize cynically.
We see the propaganda. It's thick as a kid.
I mean, it's not, and for that, that's not the, I agree that takes place. This is not the only issue where where a certain orthodoxy around it is enforced.
No, that's true. But one of the things that's interesting to me is how fast the American landscape has shifted on this. At the start, in the immediate wake of October 7th, the Israelis launched into Gaza and dropped thousands of bombs in a very short time. And people like me were critical of that. In Ireland, that is a very normal position. That is where, for various historical reasons, the Irish sympathise with the plight of the Palestinians. And when I was saying those things here in, I don't know, November of that year or December of that year, it was people at the right coming at me saying, you're supporting Hamas, terrorists, anti-Semites, and all the rest. Recently, I am surprised when I talk on that issue how much cross-ideological support I get, because I think the constant knee-jerk reaction of calling people anti-Semites.
It's gotcha virtue signaling. I saw it so much when I was working as a private chef for wealthy people in Florida. They would weaponize the virtue of their ideological opponents all the time. It's so fucking obnoxious. Exactly. It's the same principle as like, I am creating a false standard that you do not apply to yourself, and then I'm holding you accountable to that false standard. Like, I've never said, I want people to have certain liberties, certain freedoms, and autonomy in their workplace, okay? That doesn't mean people can't have nice fucking things. Obviously, there's excess, but there's a certain standard of freedom and financial security that I think everyone should have, like a base level of material equality that every good government is supposed to create for all of their people, okay? But then people turn around and be like, well, you have a nice car, you wear nice clothes. Socialism, but wealthy. And it's like, dude, you apply that standard to me, okay? No one in my community applied that standard to me. There's no historic relevance to this standard. It is a cynical, reactionary framework that people are expected to operate in, and it requires the audience that is hearing that message to be receptive to that reactionary framework. And luckily for a lot of these people that do launch this accusation, many people do still operate with this like false standard, right? Many people still operate with this false understanding. So they hear it and they go, duh, that does make sense. It's hypocritical. That's what it is, right? That's all it is. It's hypocrisy baiting, hypocrisy fishing, that unfortunately even self-identifying socialists and leftists sometimes lean into without realizing that it's like an idiotic argument. It's nonsensical. Okay? The inverse of that doesn't work either, right? Nobody fucking turns around and says, oh, we have the fire department, you know? Some people try to do that, but it doesn't work. It doesn't have the same prescience, doesn't have the same salience.
Has, in fact, discredited that charge, even though there are genuine anti-Semites, like we're all agreed.
Well,
right?
and again, I would say it for the cause of making everything about, or looking for, like in the Jussie Smollett case, racial grievance or other kinds of grievance has backfired against a kind of progressive, liberal, activist media movement, such that we're living through a incredible period of backlash to that, where in some ways the backlash has gone, I would say, even too, now that we used to, you could never get a job again, or like you'd get kicked out of college if
Discord is popping off with memes, dude. Highest paid careers. Business owner, 250 grand. HasanAbi, unlimited. Okay, Discord. Every time someone brings up something expensive you bought, they bring it up like you did it sneakily, that you hide the expensive things you own. Like, I don't make a point about how expensive the things I own are. They do, and then they go, oh, see, you're flashing your wealth in front of everyone. It's like, no, bitch, I'm not. You turned around and figured out, because you're obsessive and you're a psycho, like a goddamn stalker, you turned around and like tried to figure out exactly how much I paid for something so you can make a fucking talking point out of it. There's never been a moment where I'm like, look at all my expensive shit. Okay? Oftentimes you also greatly inflate the value of the things that I own, not knowing how I acquired them, not knowing how I purchased them at all, but it doesn't even fucking matter.
you use the R slur, and now we see that word constantly. Like every other word on social media is that someone's gone a little bit too far,
right?
From my viewpoint. So maybe there'll be a backlash
To the backlash.
Well, then
Backlash to the backlash.
We'll swing back.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hope there is, and I hope we stop funding genocide. And look, the last thing that Ezra said is also super powerful. If you keep telling people that being against the genocide is being against Jewish people, you're doing Jewish people tremendous harm. Like associating them and equating them with a genocide. Look, the Turkish government, back in the day, the Ottoman government did a genocide. And by the way, their excuses were identical to the Israelis. Oh, they were hiding among the civilians. Oh, they hit us when we were fighting the Russians. They were terrorists. They were, exact same excuses, right? But that doesn't make all Turks bad people. That was a long time ago, and it was the government who did it. Right. So that's an easy thing to understand. When you say the same thing and you go, of course, not all Jewish people, you crazy? No, it's the government of Israel, and governments do terrible things, right? And when people say, no, you mean all Jewish people, well, you're weirdly agreeing with the Groypers, with the actual anti.
Pod Save America Instagram just deleted their post of your interview after it spiked to 20K likes and thousands of comments largely agreeing with your viewpoint. Strange. Wait, what? Really? That is strange. Why the fuck would they do that? Are you sure about that?
Semites. It's such a.
Anyway, let's move